Welcome back, folks. On my property, I have a carport and 2 sheds that I will break down, and on that same spot, my new man cave will arise. In today's video, I'm going to show you everything from the beginning till the end. The man cave / garage is much needed, as my 1972 Plymouth Fury is sleeping outside, and holy moly, that's not a good thing. I like to keep the existing carport so that all of my stuff stays dry, and the plan is to move it to the other side of the square. I cut all pillars with a chainsaw and attached some wheels to it so I can drag it to the other side with the forklift. I took it slow to keep the structure intact, but it was very fragile and it took several hours to get it in the middle of the square while constantly adjusting the pillars as they collapsed on every meter move. Lord have mercy! I supported the structure with even bigger wheels trying to get it into position, but when I was almost there, it totally collapsed while I was under it. God damn it! Yes! I went totally apeshit and completely destroyed the structure and collected everything so it could be burned. No mercy, this structure will burn. I noticed that the forklift was smoking like a chimney, and I sure hope it won't break down on us now, folks. I parked the forklift aside and gave it some time to cool down and collected all of the wood that was scattered all over the place. And then started a bonfire so big that it would burn anything on this planet. And after we cleared the square from all the debris, it was time to make a temporary construction for my Plymouth to sleep. We nailed some leftover wood together and put the roof from a cheap Amazon party tent on top of that. When the roof was on, we pushed the Plymouth to the other side and used a jack to steer it into position. This will be his resting place for the first months to come. I recently did an engine swap to the Plymouth. We dropped a big block into it and cleaned up the entire engine bay. I have it all on video, and you can check that out on my channel if you want. Check out that motor and engine bay. Looks great, ain't it? And with the carport away, all there is left to do is taking these 2 sheds down. So that's coming up next. Both sheds were built a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, and they had a decent amount of vegetation on them. But after some spectacular attempts from Wild Bill himself, he took it all off. Unfortunately, that damn forklift broke down on us after a major engine breakdown, so we just had to let it go. We've got it cheap, so it wasn't the end of the world, but we had to find another one to help us with the build. I removed all of the doors that I'll keep for later. Perhaps I will use those for my new man cave, but I'm not sure yet. So for now, I'll just hang on to them. One side of the shed is removed, and I partially removed the back portion as I was going along. There is also a large pile of firewood that I recently sold and will be picked up soon by the buyer. And next up is the demolition of the front side from the other shed. I'm going to remove this piece here, and this here too, and also the side and the back. Time for some B-roll, folks. Let me introduce you to our new family member, Gideon. He will be trained to keep trespassers from entering the property and protect our livestock from predators. He's also a Dutch Shepherd, just like my other dog. And they are getting along just fine. In fact, Gideon is taking the lead already. He's a small little devil, ain't he? I'm sure he'll be growing up fast and strong. Well, let's get back to it. We're almost done tearing down the walls and removing large amounts of firewood from the front side. The entire front and sides are gone. As we were walking to the backside, we found a large storage area covered with some doors which I never noticed before. Kinda strange. My buddy is already hammering away, blasting his way through the sides. So the demolition of this part is next. If you like my videos, please give me a thumbs up. Or better, consider a subscription on the channel. And if enough good folks like yourself would do so and that sweet YouTube money start rolling in, I'll be happy as a pig in shit. We completely removed the side and the back of the shed, and now we will move on to the midsection. During the demolition, we encountered all kinds of flying buggers and have spiders coming from every hole and even laid eyes on insects we didn't know existed. That was some nasty shit, folks. But most of the wall are all gone and it's time to feed that bonfire some leftover wood. We found a new forklift which made no sound whatsoever. I guess that's why they call it still.
Still?
But it works like a charm and it's very much needed to help us lifting all kinds of heavy stuff. But first, ripping the sheds to pieces. A process that is so fulfilling, folks. On top of these sheds were these large metal plates that served as a roof. These were kind of heavy from themselves, but they also had all kinds of dirt and branches on them that made them even heavier. So I used the forklift to pull them out of the rubble and proceed tearing down the other shed. Well, what do you know? You're still here. This stuff must be entertaining to you, right? And this is how it looks with everything removed, folks. Next up is the demolition of these concrete blocks you see here. I already pounded these blocks with the butt of the forklift to loosen them up. So the plan is to remove them all and wait for the buyer to show up to get rid of this pile of firewood. When that's done, I will cut and use some of these metal roof plates and place them on my temporary carport over there that we recently built from some old scaffold pipes we had laying around. So I start cutting these plates one by one with a large grinder and place them on my carport. On jobs like these, a forklift is much appreciated, and I'm glad we found a new one on such a short notice. People of the firewood arrived and they start loading up all the firewood into their trailer. As I was cutting roof plates and putting them on the temporary carport, the buyers finished that big pile of wood and got on their way. There was too much firewood to take it all with them in one session, so they will be back for a second round later, I guess. I loaded up all leftover roof plates onto my trailer and cut them shorter so that they won't be sticking out when transporting them. I'm not sure if I'll keep the plates, but since I have a lot of space, I leave them on my trailer for now and park it somewhere on the field. And this, folks, had to be the most intense moment of demolishing the sheds. We assumed these blocks were light and that they would break apart easily, but oh boy, we were so wrong there. These fellas were super heavy, weighing in at 25 kilograms each, and they were glued together so strong that we needed a jackhammer to separate them from each other. But we did it, and managed to remove everything within a few days. Next up, digging the trenches for the concrete pour. Things are getting serious now, so stay tuned for some heavy machinery. We started early in the morning, which I always prefer, and start collecting all of the large pieces that were still laying around. Then we took out all of those small stones that were in the original carport. What you see here was the easy part. The excavator had no problem scooping up the stones and transporting them to the hard part. And that hard part, folks, yeah, you guessed it, that was the part where I was standing, damn it. I was stacking the stones onto pallets, which was a pretty hefty job. And I used the forklift to keep the pallet at standing level, you know, to make things easier for my back. After all, these were a lot of stones. Respect to bricklayers all around the globe. You all must have hand grips strong as a vice. I'm saving a few pallets for future projects because you'll never know. It's a big place over here and stones are always needed. And since we had so much stones, I made a temporary wall around the fire pit just for giggles and laughs. And I even built a small barbecue set up on the side. After all, you just can't have enough of them, right? Man, this makes me all dizzy like a Dutch windmill. Let's see how everything looks now with the sheds and carport are gone. With yet another full container ready to be picked up and everything out of the way, it's time to do some serious digging. We smoothened the entire surface with the shovel and dumped all sand, rocks, and debris on the other side of the property. And we start digging the trenches around the designated area, which is 18 by 8 meters in total. The trenches are 40 wide by 40 deep, and we encountered a lot of roots, so it was a good thing we used the excavator instead of digging it all out by hand. We used a high-tech laser gizmo so all trenches are leveled to the same depth throughout the project. The excavator made smooth trenches, but there was a metal construction in the way that had to be removed before we could continue. But the excavator ripped it out completely, and we continued with the digging. There was a 5 by 5 meter concrete floor sitting in the right corner that was already there. And instead of hacking it all out, we decided to leave it there and pour our new concrete floor right on top of it. Here you see that existing concrete floor as we are digging right next to it. Can you see it? It's on the left side of the trench. Now how about that? With all digging done, here's how it looked like. We scooped 20 centimeters from the center and dug 40 centimeters trenches around it. That will be one giant plate of concrete. And those nice folks from the container company came to pick it up. With the renovation of my house included, this brings up the container count to a whopping 28 in total. It's early in the morning again, and the colored lights you see are LEDs hanging in from the chicken coop. With Christmas underway, my wife has already started to decorate everything with lights. How sweet. It's 6 weeks later since we dug out everything, and it's time for some serious formwork. So here we go. The guys are hammering in all support stakes so the structure can withstand the concrete pressure once it pours in, and every stake has to be set at a certain height. So we need to measure a lot to keep everything leveled. And we are laying the plastic to cover all dirt. The next step is to fill the entire area with a double steel grid. The first layer of steel is about 2 centimeters from the plastic and the upper layer about 2 centimeters from the top. This makes the concrete hard and almost unbreakable, you know. Layer after layer is added to the area, and we are using steel wire to connect everything together, which was quite a technique to do. It sure looks easy, but to do it fast, you'll need a lot of experience, let me tell you that. We need to close up the gaps from drain pipes, electrical conduits, and so on, or concrete will pour out on these places. And we are reinforcing the vertical stakes with extra horizontal beams to connect everything together and make it one solid structure. The pressure from the concrete will be huge, so better safe than sorry. And as we covered the entire area with rebar, we want to fill the outer sides of the trenches with sand, so the structure will withstand the pressure of the concrete. We used a wheelbarrow to get sand to those spots and fill it all up. And let me tell you, we had a lot of sand poured in. One after another was transported in to make it as strong as possible. You can see how we do that just right here. And as we were almost finished and all rebar was tied together, I got dizzy from all that hard labor and start running in circles. It was quite a job, but we finished it in just one day. Great job, folks. Have one on me. A new day, and with the concrete truck in sight, y'all know what's coming up next. We had the truck parked on the road as it weighed almost 50 tons, and it most likely would ruin all roads on my property. So we used an external pump unit to pump the concrete to the area. We connected 30 meters of pipe from the pump, threw it over the creek onto my property, and start pumping. And when I saw that sweet gray material coming out of the mixer falling into the pump, I just knew that we were close to finishing up the foundation of my man cave. As the concrete was pushed through the pipes, the guy that holds the pipe kind of reminded me of something. Do you see what I mean there, folks? Or maybe it's just me. Concrete was poured in, and we had no problems whatsoever with the forms. It was pretty strong, and there was no warping of the borders. It all stayed nice and straight. Damn, we did a nice job. 3 concrete truckloads later, we just had 35 cubes of concrete in, and we're about to finish it up. The pump guy loaded up his things and took off, leaving behind one big chunk of concrete. But his colleague stayed and started power troweling the floor to turn it into a mirror finish, which took all night long. He started at 6 in the evening until 6 in the morning. You've got my respect, sir. And we're back a few days later on the project. The concrete floor turned out great, and I like to thank all of my friends helping me out with this one. It's the end of autumn now, and winter will be coming soon, which means that the Man Cave project needs to rest for a couple of months, and we will resume the build upcoming spring. I'd like to thank you all nice people for sticking around, and I'll expect y'all to see you back on my next video. Take care, folks. Howdy, folks. So nice to see y'all again, and welcome back to Uncle Jesse's headquarters, the place where cars are built and banjos are strummed. It's your favorite hillbilly handyman at it again, and I'm here to welcome you to the grand tour of Man Cave 2.0. So hold on to your moonshine jugs and grab a shovel. We'll begin the video with power, cause the Man Cave needs lots of it. That's right, Boris, you tell him. He's the sheriff of the house, and if you got a mice infestation, you best believe Boris is fixing to clean it up quicker than a hiccup in a tornado. But anyways, we are gonna dig a trench from the house, all the way up to the man cave. What's up, dog? My friends arrived to help me dig the trench and brought their excavator along with them. We began removing stones close to the concrete slab where the power lines entered the man cave. This is the spot. All power lines will go through this pipe here. We gathered round, scratched our heads a bit, and thought, why not stick those power lines right next to the fence? So that's what we did. Within an hour or two, we had that electricity highway stretching from the fence straight to the heart of the homestead. We guided the power line through a plastic conduit, making sure they stayed in line like a bunch of well-behaved piglets at supper time. But we've got the hang of it, and before you could say, holy moly, we had them cables snug as a bug in a rug, and right up to the power outlet in no time. Once them cables were in, we closed up that trench with the excavator. But the real show began when we unleashed our one-legged friend. We pounded that soil from the house all the way up to the man cave, making the ground solid as a rock. And we already start to put back the stones again and getting rid of any excessive dirt. Laying stones sure looks like an easy job, and my friend sure makes it look easy. But let me tell you, it's a pretty precise job, and to do it like this, you'll need a lot of experience, folks. And after the trench was closed and all stones were back into place, we start cleaning up all stones with this monster. We cleaned all of the dirt, cleaned the stones, and start pounding away on our newly installed stones. Firmly press them into the ground. And this is the last bit. Getting everything in took about 6 hours. Pretty fast if you ask me. And next up, 2 truckloads full of concrete bricks arrived at the scene. Well, bless my toolbox and sing hallelujah to the heavens. It's time to summon the holy forklift once more. I transported all bricks to the man cave foundation, so everything is ready to go. These are hollow 40 by 20 concrete blocks, and with these fellas, I'm gonna build the entire man cave. It's time to turn those 1,600 concrete Lego blocks into something special now, folks. So there should be more than enough bricks to go around. Let the building commence, and may that good old force be with us. I've prepared the mixer and everything that goes with it. And right after that, we were fixing to set up them marker beams. But them pesky branches were just playing hard to get them level. So nothing my good old chainsaw can't fix. We were placing marker beams on all 4 corners of the man cave to guide our level string. And we are going to use a laser to make sure everything is straight. If you like what we're doing out here, please consider a subscription, folks. And if you do, I'll be happier than a pig rolling around in a big old mud puddle. Much obliged. And just look at that. A perfect level. Ain't that something? I just returned from the hardware store and picked up a whole mess of ingredients for my trusty old mixer. We cleaned it out, added sand and mortar, and started laying our first blocks on that shiny concrete. Now that first row of stones must be checked and double-checked for a perfect level, as this is the most important row. We've marked the height with a level string and start laying them blocks faster than a one-legged man in a butt-kicking competition. It's a repeating process which involves constant measuring and leveling for each and every block. And after an hour or so, this is how the first row looks like. Not bad for a bunch of amateurs, right? Yep, it's as straight as an arrow, folks. To work with these blocks, you gotta get down to some good old half-cutting shenanigans. We wrangled up the big grinder and sliced them blocks in half quicker than a hot knife through butter on a summer day. Just grab that hammer, swing it once, and the whole dang place falls in line like a row of cornstalks in a summer breeze. And so we kicked things off by slapping down them initial layers of stones, just like a bunch of mountain folks getting a rockin' start on a good old building project. We kept on building layer upon layer, like stacking pancakes at a country breakfast. Meanwhile, we hooked on our trailer to get ourselves some steel H-beam lintels. The sun was shining, and it was the perfect day to hit the road. So Wild Bill and I drove all the way to the factory to pick those up. We arrived at the factory entrance, and they opened up this big old garage door for us to drive in. We made our way to the pickup point where our lintels were laying, and they used this huge crane to load them onto our trailer. We made darn sure them steel beams were bolted down tighter than a jar of pickles in a storm. Can't have 'em tumbling off on the ride back home, so we secured 'em good and proper. Yep, safety first, y'all. We hightailed it out of that building, revved up the truck, and cruised on back to the man cave. Parked that trailer right back where it belonged, like precision parking at the county fair, and positioned it back in place. Back to the grind. We're raising up them corners for the lintels, standing tall at about 240 high. Stacked them sides of them entrances with a double layer of stones, which made them sturdy as a mountain cabin in a storm. Doubling up them layers in certain spots ain't just for show, because we're fixing to lay them hefty 8-meter long steel lintels right on top of them. They're gonna be the backbone supporting the roof down the line. Gotta make sure our foundation's as solid as a rock to bear that weight. With spring in full swing, our chickens are back in the egg-laying business. That means from here on out, we've got ourselves a daily supply of fresh, free-range eggs straight from the coop to the kitchen. Yes, sir, that mixer just keeps on churning out that mud like there's no tomorrow, folks. We're hauling it up to the scaffold with the trusty forklift, saving our backs from all that heavy lifting. I told you, that forklift's our savior on this job, working miracles left and right. It's the unsung hero of the construction site, now that's for sure. We continue to build all of the stone pillars next to the entrances. In total, we'll have 1 regular front door and 3 large overhead roller shutters. Them steel H-beams we snagged earlier, they're our secret weapon for supporting them gaps above the entrances. I shuffled them trailers around, clearing the way for our next move. Now it's time to get them pillars ready up top so we can slide them lintels right into place. I printed a model of the man cave to show you how it looks now. The lintels will be placed on top of the openings like I show here for demonstration. With the help of our trusty forklift, we hoisted them lintels atop them pillars. Then we sealed the deal by slathering on that cement, gluing them tight like a preacher's sermon. Ain't nothing gonna shake them lintels again, folks. They are locked in place and are ready to bear the weight of the world. And how about that? The first lintel in place and leveled perfectly. The next thing to do is put in as much cement on the sides of the lintels as possible to make it one solid unit. So that's what we're doing here. With the first lintel in, we continued placing the other one. And right after that, the one above the front door. No room for errors. That's why we're using multiple levelers to check all lintels are straight and leveled perfectly. With these 3 lintels in, it's time to place the last and final one. Same procedure as the last 3. Level it out, put some mud under it, and set it in place. And back on the masonry grind again, building up both of the back corners to set the total height. Once we have these 2 corners in, it's time to raise the rest of the walls. There were some trees in our way when we reached a higher level, so we used some lashing straps to pull them away from our masonry. Meantime, Wild Bill is hammering away to clean up any excess mud from the walls. And you can see that my Dutch Shepherd Gideon has grown quite a bit since the last episode. And this is how it looks like from the sky, folks, using my mini drone to capture it all. The signs of the changing seasons are all around us, ain't they? Halfway through March and already had our share of rain, and them trees still bare without a leaf in sight. But fear not, as Mother Nature works her magic quick as a wink. In just 2 short weeks, them trees will be bursting with leaves and the man cave will be tucked away from prying eyes again. Building up them sides and the back to level out them walls to the right height. Once them walls are squared away, it'll be time to bring in them steel beams to bear the weight of that roof. It's all coming together, step by step, inch by inch. And finally, we're placing our last rows in. 1,600 stones placed within just 2 weeks. Not a bad achievement to say the least. And look what we found. A little mouse who made a cozy nest sleeping in one of the stones. We made another trip to the hardware store to pick up some extra bags of sand and cement. We kinda underestimated the amount of cement needed for this build. 100 bags just wasn't enough, folks. The mixer just ate it all. While Wild Bill's busy filling them gaps in the masonry, our dogs are keeping a close eye on the action, sticking close to my dad like glue. As we were building up the right wall, which was the last wall that we have to build up, we noticed a large branch that was in our way. It's chainsaw time again. Wild Bill jumped onto the forklift and starts cutting away like there was no tomorrow. And within minutes, he had that branch decimated to little pieces, ready to become firewood. Now just look at that sight. It almost starts to look like something, ain't it? With just one row to go, the man cave is almost ready for the next step, building ourselves a roof. Hiya, dog. Gideon becoming bigger day by day. And so is the man cave. Check out these posts that we already installed. That's 10 by 10 centimeters steel there, folks. We ordered the steel beams to support the roof, and while we're waiting for them to arrive, we already begin to install these posts on all 4 entrances. Here you can see both side and top posts installed at the front door. Here you see one of the garage entrances already done. We could have used wooden posts, but we wanted something that required no maintenance ever. We saved this last beam for you, so we can show you how we did it. We loaded a stick welding machine onto a pallet and put it close by. And next, we picked up the upper steel beam and sanded away the paint on all corners for a better welding process. We transported the beam with the forklift and carefully dropped it into place. And with a lot of eyeballing and going millimeter by millimeter, it just fitted like a glove. And my dad got all the expertise it needs to bring it all together. With a lifetime of professional welding under his belt, he's the perfect man for the job. And he started to weld away like there was no tomorrow. He professionally welded all of our steel posts together within just 2 days. And just like that, all welding is done. Thanks, Dad, I owe you one. But I'm pretty sure we will need your welding skills again when the steel roof beams arrive. Just look at that weld. Looks gorgeous, right? So after my dad was finished welding, Wild Bill and myself sanded all welds and spray painted it to prevent it from rust. Here's the situation, folks. On top of these 3 openings here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 large steel beams will be placed on top. Wait, I've got a better way of showing it to you, folks. Up from the sky. And voila, here's what it's supposed to look like. A new day, and what do you know? Them metal beams arriving bright and early like a promise of progress. Looks like we're faced with a choice. Take the easy road with that heavy truck on my property and risk tearing up the roads, or opt for the hard route and handle things ourselves. Sometimes taking that hard route leaves you with the most satisfaction. You agree, folks? So that's what we did. We used our trusty...
Say forklift one more time, I dare you! Say forklift one more time,
And with that being said, we transported the first beam to the man cave. Rain or shine, we ain't gonna let a little water dampen our spirits. A little rain might slow you down, but it sure won't stop you. And within a matter of minutes, the first beam was in the man cave. Another 5 to go. Teamwork makes the dream work, they say. And luckily, I've got quite the dream team on my hands. With my dad and Wild Bill jumping in to lend a hand, transporting them large beams ain't such a slow and difficult process anymore. They say many hands make light work, and with all of us pitching in together, we'll have them beams moving like a well-oiled machine in no time. Well, I'll be darned. You're still around? Now that is much appreciated, let me tell you. In return, let me present to you this button. If you like what you see, consider a subscription, folks. And with all 6 beams in the house, it's time to put them into position and dividing them onto the double-layered pillars. The beams are 8.5 meters long, so we must rearrange them once on top. If we dropped them straight onto the spots they needed to go, we wouldn't have any wiggle room left for the last 2 beams. And it all turned out great. We will be gluing the beams to the cement when the sun shines again. And if we do a little sun dance, the sun will shine tomorrow. I'll guarantee. Told y'all, the sun is shining again, folks. Now here's the situation.
And stop playing with that 3D printer.
You made your point, Bill. Let's forget about the 3D models for now and cook a steak. A juicy tomahawk steak always works to calm him down. Looks awesome, by the way, don't it? Man, you can almost smell that juicy meat through your monitor. Ain't no joke. But with the sun shining down, we wasted no time getting them metal beams glued onto the concrete using them chemical anchors. Mother Nature sure is cooperating with our plans today, folks. Before you know it, them trees will be bursting with leaves once more, turning the property into our very own private island for the next coming months. There's something magical about watching the world come alive again after the winter sleep, ain't it? Anyway, we grouted both in and outside of the walls and burned all tree branches in some fire.
A fire? A fire? That's a fire!
Well, you see, old Wild Bill, he just went and did his thing, you know? He got to burning like a bonfire on the 4th of July. The next step was placing them wooden purlins between the metal beams. Purlins are horizontal beams placed along the length of a roof. Luckily for us, we found used purlins online as wood is super expensive nowadays. We had to travel a day to pick them up, but it saved us so much money that it was worth the trip. One by one, we trimmed the purlins to the desired length and used a safety cage to place them between the metal beams. Can you believe it's April and it's supposed to be all flowers and sunshine? But unfortunately, it's looking more like fall. The sun's poking through every now and then, but we're still getting a heap of them cloudy days bringing down buckets of rain like it's trying to drown the whole dang county. But despite the weather, we were making good progress placing those purlins. With my old man steering the ship, Wild Bill chopping and cutting everything to length, and me slapping them purlins between the metal beams, it's going smoother than a shot of moonshine on a Saturday night. With just 10 months old, Gideon barely fits into the cargo bike anymore as my missus takes him to dog training every week. Just look at the size of his head. Man, Gideon is growing larger every day. Well, once we finished up with them purlins, we busted out the old miter saw to chop up them smaller bits to hook them purlins all together. Let me tell you, we had to hack up a whole mess of wood to get it just right. But we ain't afraid of a little elbow grease round here, folks. You've been around long enough to know that by now. And finally, that old sun decided to peek out from them clouds, giving us the perfect weather to get down to some serious roof business. Let me tell you, it was like the big man upstairs was giving us a nod of approval. It took us a good 3 days to wrangle all them pieces of wood between them purlins. But let me tell you, it was worth every minute of sweat and toil. Now that we got this big old grid of wood all set up, it's just about time to slap them roof plates on and declare this here job done and dusted. Looks great, ain't it? Next step, the roof. You ain't gonna believe this, but I stumbled upon another steal of a deal on them interweb. Managed to snag me 21 of them big old metal roof plates for the price of just one. Them folks delivered them plates right to our doorstep on a truck with a crane, so they dropped them plates onto the roof for us, saving us a heap of trouble hauling them up there ourselves. Now that's what I call service with a smile. And more metal work ahead, folks. My dad is laying out the frame for the entrance door, and you guessed it, it will be a steel one. We welded the outside of the frame together and checked the dimensions to see if it fits. But we made a miscalculation there, and the frame did not fit the entrance. It was much too small. Check out that gap. It's roughly 10 centimeters too small. And so we cut it and welding in the extra steel to widen it up. And my buddy Jay is going up there with his nail gun in hand, popping off them extra nails in those purlins like a gunslinger from the Wild West. With every shot, he's locking down that roof structure tighter than a tick on a hound dog, making sure it's as sturdy as an oak tree in a storm. And with the extra metal welded in, let's check out how that door frame fits now. Yep, fits like a glove. We spaced it out evenly so that the frame has free movement all around, and we can weld these fellas in. These are industrial-grade hardened steel hinges, which will last at least one lifetime, and we're going to use 3 of them. Talking about overkill here, folks. We welded them in and tested out that door movement. And right after that, we welded in 4 additional cross braces to stiffen it all up. And while my dad is welding everything together, I'm very pleased with how that door turned out. It's only a matter of slamming a front plate on and it's done. Well, folks, the moment we've all been waiting for has finally arrived. It's time to slam that roof on and call it a day. After all the blood, sweat, and elbow grease we've poured into this project, it's time to see our hard work pay off as we lay down them roof plates and seal the deal. Unfortunately, them plates we laid down just came up short by a whole meter, so we got to chopping them plates down to size to fill in that extra mile. Well, folks, here she is in all her glory. We couldn't be happier with how this whole project turned out. In our next video, we're going to kick things up a notch by installing them doors and slapping the outer skin on. And if luck's on our side, we might just dive right into sprucing up the interior.